Physical consciousness is the lowest kind of consciousness, just as physical matter is the lowest kind of matter, and physical energy is the lowest kind of force. There are 6 main kinds of physical consciousness, physical atomic consciousness excluded, corresponding to subjective and objective experiences in the 6 physical molecular kinds. The corresponding is true of all higher worlds. Man's physical consciousness is partly the organism's different kinds of sense perceptions, partly, to most people, only subjective apprehension by the etheric envelope of the vibrations in the higher 3 physical molecular kinds, 49.2-4. Man's emotional consciousness is his monad's consciousness in his emotional envelope. At mankind's present stage of development, most people's emotional consciousness during physical incarnation is limited to mere subjective experiences of the vibrations in the emotional envelope. By nature, emotional consciousness is exclusively desire, or what the individual at the emotional stage perceives as dynamic will. At the stage of barbarism, before the individual's consciousness in his mental envelope has been activated, desire manifests itself as more or less uncontrolled impulses. When the mental envelope, influenced by the vibrations of the emotional envelope, is attracted to and woven together with the emotional envelope, mental consciousness is awakened to life, and desire and thought merge. If desire then preponderates, feeling ensues, which is desire colored with thought. If thought preponderates, imagination ensues, which is thought colored with desire. Man's emotional life is mainly the life of emotional illusions. He is the victim of desire's wishful thinking, of the illusions of emotional thinking. The individual is completely free of the illusions only after he has acquired causal consciousness. The vibrations of the lower 3 emotional molecular kinds, 48.5-7, are mainly repulsive, those of the 3 higher, attractive. Noble feelings are expressions of attraction. Man's mental-causal consciousness is his monad's self-acquired ability of consciousness, partly in his mental envelope, 47.4-7, partly in his causal envelope, 47.1-3. There are 4 kinds of consciousness of the mental envelope, corresponding to the ability to apprehend the vibrations in the lower 4 mental molecular kinds, 47.4-7. The majority of mankind have developed, that is, activated, only the lowest kind, 47.7, discursive inference thinking from ground to consequence. The second kind, from below, 47.6, philosophic and scientific principle thinking, is still the highest kind of thinking for all except the extremely rare elite. The third kind from below, 47.5, elite thinking, is, in contrast to principle thinking, which mostly absolutizes, partly consistent relativizing and percentualizing thinking, partly perspective thinking and system thinking. The highest kind of consciousness in the mental envelope, 47.4, is still inaccessible to mankind. Its manifestations consist in, among other things, concretization of causal ideas involving simultaneous thinking by systems instead of concepts. The content, even of elite thinking, is for the most part made up of fictions, conceptions without real correspondences, due to lack of facts about existence. Only the facts of esoterics make it possible to think in accordance with reality. Causal consciousness, 47.1-3, is possible only for those who have developed so far ahead of the rest of mankind that they can purposefully prepare for their transition to the next higher kingdom. They have acquired the ability to associate with everybody in the causal world, the meeting place for the individuals belonging to the 4th as well as to the 5th natural kingdom. Causal consciousness is subjectively intuition, the experiencing of causal ideas, and makes it possible to study objectively the physical, emotional, and mental worlds, and makes omniscience in these worlds possible. To causal consciousness there is, in planetary respect, the worlds of man 47 to 49, neither distance nor past time. The causal self is able to study all its previous lives as man, is able independently and quickly to acquire the facts necessary to comprehend all realities in the worlds of man, achieving more in 1 hour in 47-1 than the most efficient mental thinker could manage in 100 years. Fictions are precluded. The following survey of the different kinds of consciousness within the solar system will perhaps make it easier to understand the fact that to ever higher kinds of matter, material envelopes, material worlds, correspond ever higher kinds of consciousness. 49 is physical, including etheric consciousness. 48 is emotional consciousness. 47 is mental-causal consciousness. 46 is essential consciousness. 45 is super-essential consciousness. 44 is sub-manifestal consciousness. And 43 is manifestal consciousness. It should be evident from the terms used for the ever higher kinds of consciousness that all but the lowest three, 47 to 49, are incomprehensible to mankind at its present stage of development. The term self applied to an individual indicates the highest world in which he has acquired full subjective and objective self-consciousness and ability of activity. For example, that self which has acquired causal consciousness is called a causal self. Having acquired essential consciousness, an essential self, or a 46 self. Having acquired 45 consciousness, a 45 self. A sub-manifestal self, a 44 self. A manifestal self, a 43 self. In international usage, the term self might, for greater convenience, be replaced with monad. Thus, 43 monad, 44 monad, 45 monad, etc. Man's consciousness is divided into waking consciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. The content of man's waking consciousness, when he is in his organism, is made up of sense perceptions, feelings, thoughts, and expressions of the will. The subconsciousness of the monad contains, in their latent state, all the perceptions and worked-up experiences of the monad ever since the consciousness of the monad was awakened to life. Each incarnation deposits, as it were, its own layer of consciousness. All this is preserved as rudiments of qualities and abilities, usually manifesting themselves as possibility of understanding. For these rudiments to be actualized, it is necessary that they be developed in each new incarnation, a process that is nevertheless increasingly easier. The superconscious includes all not yet self-activated domains of consciousness in the molecular kinds of the individual's different envelopes. Development consists in self-activating consciousness and thereby acquiring self-consciousness in these molecular kinds. Man is constantly receiving impulses from his subconsciousness, less frequently inspirations through his superconsciousness. Waking consciousness is thus an exceedingly small fraction of the monad's possibility of consciousness. All the individual's envelopes are being pervaded every second by innumerable vibrations from without, the emotional envelope by feelings from the environment, the mental envelope by global mental vibrations. Very, very few of these are apprehended by waking consciousness. Each envelope of the individual has its consciousness, its memory, the subconscious collective consciousness of its different molecules. These memories dissolve with the envelopes. The permanent envelope in the human kingdom, the causal envelope, preserves the memory of everything it has experienced since its formation. Remembrance anew is the ability to resuscitate the vibrations received or emitted by the envelopes. Consciousness expressions activate the matter of the envelopes. Constant vibrations habits, tendencies, etc., retain permanent atoms, in Sanskrit, skandhas. On the dissolution of the envelopes, they enter into the causal envelope and accompany it at reincarnation, constituting the latest fund of experiences, predispositions, talents, etc. The primordial atom's memory is indestructible, though latent. In order to remember anew, it is necessary to renew the contact with previously experienced reality. Causal selves and higher selves are able to do this in the planetary and cosmic globe memories.